Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm just going to be doing a few casual games in the Emperor tier and trying to have fun. If you enjoy my half commentary, half getting tilted about what's going on in the game, please like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. But yeah, let's get into it. So judging by my opponent's pre-bans of 2 anti-debuff units, I thought that my opponent might want to cleave me, so I picked Zio to speed contest and hand guy just in case my opponent tries to pivot into more standard. But my opponent, seeing my picks, doubles down and goes into cleave, so it's like, ugh, yikes. So I basically have to backpedal into anti-cleave at this point because I don't do too well into imprint cleaves just because Para isn't too great against Green Sid and Vildred. So I pick Yolha here. Honestly, SC Arwa will be better for anti-cleave purposes, but she kind of serves as mitigation and she's a way to deal with Aiden later into the match, so I don't have to worry about getting soloed by Aiden. And I'm kind of contemplating what my second pick is here, but Aiden is single target and Wonder Silk is also single target, so I was kind of thinking of picking Stene here because she is a book holder, so if I want to pick Peyra down the line, I can, and I can have that guaranteed stun on turn 1. And she also is pretty safe against the DPSs that were on the board, except for Ren. I decided to ban Pavel here because trying to CC him is like a 50-50, and Peyra can only really realistically CC one person. I guess it would have been better to pick something like a BBK in the last slot, considering they don't have a soul burn. But as expected, my opponent bans Zeal, so I just have to pray that my Peyra is faster, or I just kind of straight up lose. Because I'm sure with Ran S3 and Iseria S3, my team will kind of crumple. But my opponent actually makes a mistake here because I don't think Ran is in the correct spot for imprints.
I'll teach you a lesson.
Maybe it's because it's mirrored, but luckily, you know, cash game, my Peyra outspeeds. I don't S2 with Peyra because I don't want to proc the counterattack into Iseria S2 bomb setup. So I just kind of let the game play out from there, but I think I'm in a pretty good spot. Yolha can eventually take care of Aiden, as I said, so Aiden isn't too threatening. And eventually I should be able to stabilize as long as I am able to prevent an AoE attack from Ran from happening. Luckily my Stene pretty much gets her turn uncontested because Ran was stunned, and because of the pen set, she kills. And from here on out the game is pretty much done for, in my opinion. It feels bad that my hand guy can't actually S3 because Wanderer Silk's debuffs last 2 turns, but whatever, it's fine. My Peyra finally goes down, but it still doesn't matter. Nobody on his team can actually proc Iseria's S2, so I can just slowly grind down his team from here. And yeah, that's basically what you're gonna watch for the rest of this match. I'm not too sure how the speed imprint works, because obviously I see the perspective from my side because, you know, left side gaming, but I guess my pair was just fast enough, or it might have been speed RNG because most Rans at this rank are at least 300 speed and my Peyra's only 312, so honestly don't really know, but you know, we take those. It's justice when it happens to us, you know. We love that. And there goes a, I'm not gonna say an easy dub, but it's like, you know, it's a dub that I'll take because I was on like a 4 loss streak before this. I'm trying to test out Briar Witch Iseria before her buffs because I picked her from the ML selector here just because I needed a safe quote-unquote DPS that is good against landy, because a lot of the times I lose is to landy comps because if they ban my flidica, I don't really have like safer DPS picks that I can pick that are good into Landy that aren't Sylvan Sage Vivian. And since Sylvan Sage Vivian has her like whole host of counters, I'm just testing Brice Aria because like I also am a book addict, so her soul burn being guaranteed death breaks or like 75% or whatever is like pretty good. On to the next match though. I think I recognize this guy. This guy is someone who unironically picks ML Ken and is like mad respect to making a unit work that you like, because you know everyone plays the meta, but it's always nice to have units that you like and you play anyway, even if they aren't the greatest. Since I pretty much am not worried that my opponent is going to try and cleave me with a SCROL DJB setup, I go into hand guy flidica to just play a more aggressive version of standard. And my opponent goes for Landy, which I mentioned is one of the units I have a lot of issues against, and Winter. So, unironically, this is a decent, I'm not going to say good, decent Brice Aria game, so I pick her here. In hindsight, Politis, I think, would have been just as good, if not better. Or any fire DPS with reach, really, like Mercedes would have been like decent. Milim would have been pretty good too, not that I own here. And as I said, like my opponent picks Ken. I'm pretty sure I can tell that my opponent was going to ban stene because my team doesn't really have that much damage. So I end up just banning the Ken because there's no way a Brice Aria can solo an Ken pre-buff. And yeah, it happens. His team's unexpectedly really fast. It's like a 290 GJB, which I haven't seen in a while, but you know, to each their own. My opponent just basically gets to use all his skills and have fun before I can go big sadge, but I'll accept it because it's what I do to other people most of the time. But luckily, wow, Brice Aria, even without Guiding Light, managed to survive because she has an immortality passive. I'm hoping that this AOL S3 will be able to strip most things off. You know, I built her with 225F for a reason. But unluckily, there are too many buffs on my enemy's team to actually strip off anything useful other than the stealth from Landy, so. And I also forgot that SCROL would stun and strip everything off my Brice Aria, but you know, SG was rewarding me for picking underrated units. And basically I'm gonna win because my Brice Aria 15% at Arrow. But you know, I'm not mad at it. This is the second game in a row where you could argue that RNG played a factor in me winning. You're right. And I'm at peace with that. But it's okay. It's just the nature of how the game is sometimes. You know, you get lucky a few times and you don't some other times, but I'll just take it. It's a Brice Aria win, so like no complaints from me. I'm really hoping that she is good post buff because I was supposed to take either Lionheart or Solitaria for my bullying standard players playstyle, and I picked Brice Aria because, like, you know, her art is very nice. So what can I say?
This is hard.
Unfortunately for my opponent though, he's just basically gonna get ground down at this point. His team doesn't have enough sustain, and while Flidica isn't a proper DPS, she out DPS's an Airwell and DJB, so that's basically most of what I'm going to be doing at this point. I'm not gonna hand guy S2 even though it does do decent damage because of the Baryon version from DJB. So everyone gets to watch this engaging gameplay of me S1ing Arrowell and trying to kill this game before I die of old age. But yeah, while everyone watches this riveting gameplay, do you guys want to see Giselle gameplay? I'm honestly thinking about making a Giselle quote-unquote showcase kind of video, but since I am not a cleaver by any sense, and Giselle being kind of limited to those like hyper aggressive playstyles, kind of like a green Sid. Like I don't have the gear to make a green Sid work, so I don't know how I'm supposed to get gear to make Giselle work. But if you guys are interested, like let me know. Like I can try it and fail miserably. Maybe that would be fun to watch though. Like it's always fun to watch like someone like kind of flop sometimes. But it's fine. For my third match, I am actually up against one of the OGs, one of the real ones, Roseliafan. He's one of my friends from my old server. Oh, not my old server, my old E7 guild, Potato Farm. They kicked me out for inting into Shu Guild War defenses, which is like fair. Yeah, it was just fair. Like I just inted and tried to cleave Shu defenses even when I was told explicitly not to, but like I didn't have the units at the time to deal with it, and like I wasn't gonna re-gear my account, so like but I had a great time. Anyway, my opponent Roselia hit me up on Discord yesterday like, hey, do you want to do mocks, like fair bruiser matches? And today he's basically cleaving me. Like look at his pre-bans, like Zio and Sage Ugly pre-bans. Like my opponent just wants me to have the maximum fun possible, and I can respect that, kind of. So here we go. I first picked Stene, knowing full well he was going to cleave, because you know, it's the meta. And then I basically just backpedal into anti-cleave. That's just kind of how Stene drafts go, to be honest. My opponent picks 2 speed units first, so I also decide to speed contest because, like, you know, I want my opponent to have the most amount of fun possible too. So I pick Para. My opponent picks top model Luluka. I forget. I know like the general stats of his units. Like his top model is either 295 with the speed buff or pre-speed buff. So that's like a very threatening speed tier, especially with the speed imprint. I pick Aiden here because none of the units actually deal with Aiden well, and with SC Arwell's like barrier and escort, she should be able to tank a few misses and hopefully one-shot his team. And I picked Destina here for some sustain because she provides protection against Leica sleeps, and she can cleanse C. Lilius's debuffs. And because Escort is such a fair and balanced ability, she should be able to tank a few hits and act as like an off tank for Stene too, in case it comes down to that. I'm pretty sure I'm going to ban last pick here, but I decide that I actually want to ban the speed imprint instead because SC Arwell can check Senya by stunning her and stripping her buffs, and Destina can soft check Senya by just cleansing off all the debuffs. So I just decided to play it safe and ban the speed imprint and hope that I don't get speed RNG'd and that my 310 Para can just clutch out this game. And then, you know, I play around with imprints because I am a whale. No, I'm just kidding. Me pretending like that 3.4% defense is actually going to make a difference. Luckily though, my Para does outspeed, and I can just S2 freely, and I get even luckier because I actually hit Senya, and the unbuffable sticking to Senya is pretty good because it means that I can actually save Arrowell's S3 for later into the match. And my opponent is actually running Crimson Seed, C. Lilius for Zio. Like, oh my god, dude, die so cringe. I'm so glad that I decided to S2 and proc the Crimson Seed so the stun could stick. My opponent just goes with their really fast top model Luluka, but thankfully having no attack buff and having the restrict on Senya means that the follow-ups really, you know, not that scary. And my Aiden actually does counter here. I was not gonna lie, fully expecting my Aiden to just get hit and die, especially with that target debuff, but she's free to just S3 into Celius with the attack buff, and Celius goes down, and basically this match, yeah, is pretty much over.
That's what I do.
Sorry for doing you like this, Rose. I'll make it up to you later in Mox when I flop. Oh, also, that emote is not BM. I only emoted him because I knew him as a friend. So like, you know, I only emote people who emote me. Yeah. Okay, that doesn't make it any less toxic, but like, you know, talk shit, get hit, you know? Like, if people are gonna emote me in RTA, I'm just gonna emote them back because it's just justice. But sometimes people emote me because I like hacks them really hard, and then sometimes I just don't emote them back because like, yeah, I got a fam. Like, I totally get you. That really wild tangent aside. My opponent does something really rude here again, picking stene first and not letting me pick stene first. So I'm kind of scrambling to find a decent answer. I don't really have a go-to yet because Sylvan Sage Vivian isn't really a unit you can first pick, and stene is just a really safe first pick, especially if you're not cleaving. So I kind of just pick Flidica and SC Arwell. I pick Flidica to be good into standard, and I pick SC Arwell to deny from my opponent. And my opponent like goes into standard, so I feel pretty comfortable. This is honestly the playstyle I'm best at, even though I'm not like thrilled that I'm playing up against the stene. So I pick Hand Guy to counter the AOL, and I pick Aria as a decent DPS into stene. She's not the greatest, especially since AOL is picked and there's two other spaces for counters to be picked, like Alencia, like Landy, Rimuru. But I didn't really have anything else I wanted to pick in the last slot. So I just pick Aria because at the worst, she'll give me souls because my Aria's a book. My opponent, unsurprisingly, does pick Landy. And I was thinking of picking Briar Iseria here, but if they ban Aria, my team actually has really poor damage. Like, one of Briar Iseria's big shortcomings is that she can't, like as a DPS unit for me, is that she can't solo carry a game because she just doesn't have enough damage. So as much as I want to pick and test Briar Iseria some more, I end up picking Sylvan Sage Vivian. And I actually end up banning Landy instead of anything else because Landy with souls is just really threatening to play into. And she actually does beat Sylvan Sage Vivian if you have enough S3 momentum, which I realistically would give her with all the self buffs that I would give myself. My Hand Guy ends up being the fastest unit, which just kind of feels bad. I just end up S1 pushing my Sylvan Sage Vivian, and I S3 on Sylvan Sage Vivian knowing full well that all the buffs were going to be stripped off and skill null was going to go up. My justification is that I'm just getting chip damage out on stene, so when my Aria is finally able to S3, it won't take a lot to actually kill her if I get pretty lucky with Aria. And another reason is I didn't want my opponent to continue holding AOL S3, so I gave my opponent like a buff that they'd want to strip off. Like there's like barriers and like the crit damage debuff that realistically people would want to take off. So that's my more justification.
Don't be afraid.
My opponent goes. I'm pretty surprised they actually soul burned with Senya because I have 2 strips left. And I'm not too sure, but
You aren't even fit.
I think FRES Senyas are still in the minority. I think people run effectiveness Senya still. But like again, I'm like not too sure because I don't use Senya. My opponent S3s into Aria, but luckily my escort buff was not taken off of Airwell because she had a barrier and crit damage buff. So my Aria is actually pretty healthy despite taking several attacks. And this is one of the things that is important about the meta, is that last season there was a lot of damage coming out because attack buffs were so common. There was like Peyra, Hand Guy, Diane, Amelia, but this season, since a lot of the Soul Weavers don't provide attack buffs, like DN, like SC Arwell don't really give you offensive buffs, picking my squishier Aria is easier because there just isn't a lot of damage around. And especially with the barriers that I'm getting from SC Arwell and Hand Guy, picks like a slower Aria get a lot more viable. Even like Sylvan Sage Vivian. You just saw me check the sidebar to see the timing on the AOS too. But I'm pretty confident that this match is already over. This stene just doesn't have enough pressure because nothing's really dying. So she doesn't have enough damage to realistically break through my Aria or even my SC Arwell, and eventually my Sylvan Sage Vivian's ramping damage from her S3 should allow me to eke out this win and successfully bully another standard player.
Please move aside.
But yeah, it's not something you see every day. I used to pick Sylvan Sage Vivian a lot more when I played her as a sort of cleave anchor when I first picked Peyra, but I found myself not picking Sylvan Sage Vivian as much since I am playing a lot more standard. I decided not to actually S3 with, not AoE S1 with Sylvan Sage Vivian because she was about to get another barrier. But I think I should have done it anyway because Aria is about to proc her AoE S2 and then they would get skill null either way. So it would have been additional damage on the enemy team. But yeah, Aria is actually one of those really fun units to use. She's one of those like 1v4 solo carry potential units in the right comp. Even though this is kind of strange, even though this is kind of a strange lineup to pick Aria into because of AoE on Senya. I actually do have 500 leaves saved up because I haven't really been farming. And I'm going to spend them all into Banshee just to gear a cracked Violet, and I'm hoping to get a cracked Aria in the process too. And as you saw earlier in this video, like I just had way too many buffs for this AOL S3 to actually be meaningful. So all my important buffs are kind of on. And I can slowly grind out his team, especially since Destina already used her revive. And Senya got her S3 counter buff stripped off. This game is pretty much over. And we did it! We successfully bullied another standard player. We love to see it. And my opponent forfeits, which is like understandable. But yeah, wow. On a 4-win streak. Don't see that every day. Nah, yeah, look at my win rate. It's pretty bad, but in my defense, I'm testing a lot of things out. Like, I force pick. This is like big cope, by the way. Like, other people test units and they still have good win rates. I'm just like coping. For today's last match of the video, well, English, we run into Pinar. We actually run into Pinar a few times in my channel. I think the last time was in the Honest Bruisers video. Feat Legend players, yeah, that video. But my win rate against Pinar actually isn't that great. I think right now I'm at 2 wins to 4 losses. So this is going to be very interesting. Their pre-bans were also very interesting, especially with the bomb model Kana. But you know, like, I don't judge. I pick very strangely too. I don't know what made me pick Briar Aria so confidently. Like, I guess this goes back to the cope of like I'm trying new things. My rationale for picking Briar Aria here is that once DJB goes and puts in immunity and pushes up, Briar Aria can strip that from stene and then put the attack down and unbuffable on stene, and that would be very crippling. And I also picked Aria as a reach plus DPS for my opponent's team. And then my opponent picks F10A Solitaria, which is honestly a really annoying core because both of them are very CC heavy and Solitaria shuts down Aria. I flipped my screen accidentally here, just Boomer technical difficulties, don't mind me. I was thinking of picking Handguy or Dilibet, but like, let's be real, both are gonna get banned no matter what. I banned Stene here, hoping that like maybe if I ban out the only DPS on my enemy team, my team could slowly grind my opponent's team. But something that I failed to recognize that I actually didn't have like a stene or anything to really out-sustain my enemy's team. I have a DPS, yes, in Aria, but she's shut down particularly hard by Solitaria since she can't actually proc her AoE S2. And Yolha can also eventually kill Aria with her S3, even though I do reset her here. This match is pretty much doomed because Solitaria and F10A are gonna keep my team controlled for the end of time. And this basically makes my record against Penar 2-5, I think. Which is... how much is that? It's less than 33%, so it's like kinda oof. Unfortunately, this Solitaria is on Crown and she does not low roll, so this game's pretty much doomed. Like, big sadge. But you know, we'll take it. It keeps me humble and keeps me from getting a big head, and you know, teaches me that maybe I shouldn't pick Briar Iseria so early in a draft. In hindsight, I think I should have picked like Aras Handguy, or maybe not Aras Handguy. Like, we should have picked Handguy plus one other safe-ish DPS into my opponent's team. But it's kind of difficult because I don't have my Landy geared. I think if I picked Landy into this team, it would have been pretty decent. Just because it gives reach for Stene, and since DJB puts up so many buffs, it's nice to have. But it's pretty much doomed. Unless Solitaria bricks everything. I need Solitaria to brick all her debuffs here. And also not strip my Aria down the line. But that is big hope. And I think the Solitaria is on a crit set neck? Or maybe not. I thought she was critting pretty decently, but she also failed to crit 2 units there. All my units are getting stunned. All my units also have unbuffable from F10A. And I just decided to tap out and save everyone that time instead of trying to watch Aria cope solo this team. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you like my content, like, I'll always be here. There's no Eggio today, but like maybe I'll get back on it for the next video. We'll see. See you next time.